All right, so welcome to the Courageous Entrepreneur Show. This is the show that shares information, inspiration, and strategies to help you overcome fears and obstacles to go from surviving to thriving and create the abundant business and life that you dream of and you so richly deserve. I'm your host, trainer, author, and business coach, Winnie Anderson. Today's episode is sponsored by the free workshop, The Critical Questions to Ask Before You Write a Book. You can avoid the mistakes most self-published authors make, save time and money by discovering what you need to know before you get started. And you can go to winnieanderson.com/book questions to learn more and to register for that. My husband Lou and I are big fans of the comedian Albert Brooks. I'll spare you gushing over him. So we decided to watch a movie that we missed and always wanted to see called Defending Your Life. The premise of this movie is that when we die, we go to a place called Judgment City. And yes, you get to eat everything you want and you never gain an ounce. So that's really awesome. So you have to defend your life while you're there, and you have to find out if you are able to move forward in your evolution as a person, or if you're sent back to Earth and you got to repeat this crap all over again, with the hope that you will learn the lessons that you haven't learned every time you've been here before. So this was really, it's a cute little movie, so definitely check it out if you're interested. But what was the big lesson that trips everyone up? It's fear. So the representative episodes from his character Daniel's life illustrated how fear controlled him and how he missed out on experiencing the joy, the fun, the abundance that God really had created and intended for him to enjoy. And instead he was stuck, even in death, allowing fear to control him. So I thought that was a great movie to watch because it really got me thinking about today's episode. And I'm excited more excited than normal to have today's guest with you today. And that is Shannon Hernandez. So let me tell you about her. Shannon is the creator of the Content Personality Wheel and founder of the Content Strategy Academy. Her mission is to help business owners become thought leaders through the use of content branding so they can positively impact more people. Shannon continues to inspire others as a content brand strategist, a kick-ass coach, which she certainly is, and a motivational speaker. She's appeared on CBS, ABC, in the Boston Globe, the Huffington Post, on Fox, in Identity Magazine, and on NBC. She travels the nation and speaks regularly, motivating audiences to take action and build the life and business of their dreams, and to do that through aligned content and smart strategy. So welcome, Shannon. I'm so excited to have you here.
Thank you. I am really excited to be here.
Awesome. So let's just dive in because I know you're crazy busy and so is everybody watching this. So you run a rapidly growing brand and business. You serve private clients. You have group courses. You run an incredibly thriving Facebook group, which I can attest to since I'm in that. You have a certification program, and you've got this content personality wheel, which is awesome. But business isn't your background. Right?
No.
You actually, I think it was around 2013 maybe, you were actually a school teacher. So can you talk about what led you to, and it's all in the introduction alone, so I mean you need to get her book, it's a great little book, but what really led you to say, I'm going to start a business versus I'm going to get a job in maybe teaching at a community college or in industry?
Yeah, that's a good question. So really, I was, as it says in my book, I was sitting at my kitchen table in Brooklyn, and Hurricane Sandy had come through, and we had like this bonus week off of school because all of our schools were being used for shelters and, to really help people that were missing power and their homes had been destroyed. And I just started journaling, and I was like, I am just not happy anymore. I love teaching, and Winnie, you probably know that just from being in my group and in my community. Like, it is who I am. I could wake up and teach all day long and be perfectly happy. But I didn't love the system anymore. And the system was not for the students, and it wasn't for the teachers. And that was when I realized, like, something's got to give here. Like, I don't know what that is, but I need to get out of here. And really, I had taught for 15 years. I loved my classroom. I loved the very difficult inner city children who came to my classroom every day and gave their best. But I didn't want to become that old, bitter, jaded teacher. And that was really the awareness that I had when that hurricane came through. And so I sat down and I asked myself, okay, Shannon, what are you really good at that you could do something with? Like, what could you do? And no one in my family is a business owner. I knew nothing about being a business, but the thing that kept coming back to me way back early on was I can write. Like, I can write my ass off. Just let me write for people. Let me help people build their brands through blogging. That was really my focus when I came out as the Writing Whisperer, which was the first iteration of this company. So I provided content and copywriting services. And I had in the back of my mind a fear that my father had always said. He's very, very conservative, and he was never for the arts. He was never for, doing creative things that could or could not be a flop. Like, you went to college, you got a job with the government so that you had a pension, and you worked your 30 years and you did it whether you liked it or not. Right. So there was a lot of fear going on at that time because I was 35, and I was like, oh my God, I'm going to have to call my dad and tell him that I'm leaving teaching after 15 years with a pension. Like, that was the scariest thing about it all, actually. So anyway, I that's what I knew. And I also knew that from just conversations growing up, he would always say, like, writers are starving writers and artists are starving artists. And so part of me was this proving energy. Like, I am going to prove, if I'm going to do this, that I can make money at this, and I am not going to be the starving writer and the starving artist. And that's what I did. And I had I commanded some of the highest rates in the world of copywriting and content writing as a brand new person. And that first year, which is 6 months in business, I made about $60,000.
That's awesome. Yeah,
now,
that's fantastic.
It is fantastic, but I also hit a wall because that was a lot of freaking writing.
Yeah. You get limited, right, in just how much you can possibly do. Yeah.
So that's really how it all started, is just this want and desire to be happy again, to be able to teach and help people, but not have to work in a system that's just so screwed up.
Yeah, and I think that there are two things that you said there that are really important. One is that you recognized that you could have gone to a community college. You have a master's degree, and you could do that and teach there, but the system was broken. So recognizing that you would just be going from, the frying pan to the fire, if you will, and so, okay, that option isn't going to work. But I think the other thing that really struck me by what you said was that telling dad was a very scary thing. And I think that we really do allow our fears of what will people think, what will that person say, especially our parents and people in our family and our tight family circle. That reception can often then paralyze us, and we're living a life that is controlled by somebody else's wants, somebody else's desire, and it's not really right for us. So I think that's really powerful.
Yeah.
So then,
can I interrupt you just for a minute?
Yes.
I want to make sure that I skipped this, but I want to make sure. So I was teaching at Brooklyn College, which is a 4-year college.
Okay, great.
I have a master's degree in biology education, and I was teaching future teachers. And for a long time, I really thought that I would like that. And I didn't just jump ship from teaching. Quit teaching to business. That was a little bit of my security blanket, so to speak. It wasn't much money because I was only teaching like 2 courses. But I knew that I wasn't quite sure, like, oh my God, if I leave teaching altogether, will it destroy who I am as a person? That was my biggest fear.
Okay.
And I stayed at that college for about 3 years.
Okay.
And I taught 2 classes a semester. And then finally the business just grew so much that I didn't want to do it. But what really happened, and I spoke to my advisor, and he's a dear friend of mine. He wrote the preface of my book. He was my counselor through my master's program. And he brought me into the college as a teacher. And I said, I cannot do this anymore because I am encouraging more of your students to leave teaching than to actually finish up their degree, because they're coming in and they're so distraught from student teaching conditions in New York City that they just cannot imagine a life like this anymore. And I'm not good for your program. And you know what? I love him. His name was K.A. Konstantinos. And he said to me, they need to know the truth all the way around. Yeah. And that to me was a big deal to me, because he had my back, right? He had my back leaving education. He had my back. But really, when it came down to it, I was just like, I can't morally get up and do this anymore. Like, more people are leaving this program than are staying in the end.
Right. So you had a transition job sort of thing, right? Mm-hmm. But you also were continuing to evolve and work through your own thought process as you were doing this. So it wasn't like you just pulled the Band-Aid off and here I am. And I know you also worked with a coach, right, to get clarity and to lay some foundation in your business strategy and planning, would you say?
Yeah, my very first coach, you know, I went on Facebook. I said, hey, I think I want to start a business. Who knows a good business coach? I didn't know anything of the world of coaching. Zero. Absolutely zero. And a dear friend, Larissa Parks, emailed me or messaged me, and she said, I know somebody who coaches virtual assistants, and she founded a university like Assist You. And I think she might be really good for you. Do you want me to do an introduction? And her name's Anastasia Bryce. And I said, sure. And we hit it off. Now, I wasn't becoming a virtual assistant, but she's had enough coaching to know that what she coaches around is standards and foundations and how to build a brand that's profitable so you don't have to go back to work. And when she said that to me, I was like, yes, that's what I need.
Exactly.
After I wrote this book right here, Breaking the Silence, I was like, they're never going to bring me back to New York City public schools. Like, I basically told a lot of shit in this book. And you want to talk about fear, here's another thing I think that's really important, is me writing this book proved to me a lot of things, but it helped me work through the fear of having to go back to teaching, because I knew if I wrote and published this book, they weren't going to have me come back to teaching. So it was like, plan A is the only plan I got. It better freaking work.
I just burnt the bridge.
That's right. And I happily burnt the bridge.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Yeah. One little Google search would, the recruiter would instantly get you in the rejection pile. Yeah. But that's, I think that's actually a little sneak preview for my own seminar is, why are you writing your book? And that's one of the big things I think that's a plus about writing a book, is that it allows you to really work through some of these issues that maybe you didn't realize you weren't clear about, and then to get this big message out and instantly create this whole new representation in public. So that's really awesome. So in your book, you talk about being a big dreamer, an out-of-the-box thinker, a change agent, and an individual who refuses to be unhappy. And you also share that you never allowed yourself, and I'm reading actual quotes here, to be a silent victim in any situation. Now, where does that courage come from? Is that something that is built in your DNA? Did you have that reinforced by some of the key people in your life? Or do you have a magic wand that you just wave and there you go?
You know what? I'm actually looking for a magic wand. I really am. Like, somebody in our group sent me a link, and I'm going to go find one. Because I do want a magic wand. Like, there's so much magic already. I just want to add to the magic. My parents raised 4 children. 3 of us were girls, very independently. And sometimes I wonder if they're like, what the hell did we do? Because, we're all successful in our own ways, and we're all doing our own things. But I think sometimes they're probably just like, wow, that Shannon, she really has a voice, and she's not scared to use it. Like, even with my parents piss me off, I call them up and they hear about it. Like, it's just a standard in my life that I'm going to confront you in a very nice and loving way when you cross a line with me. And, that was something I grew up hearing my parents say, you have to stand for something or you fall for anything. And of course, when I was little, I was like, what the hell does this mean? But now I totally get it. Like, you could just be wavering all around in life and business, not knowing which way to go, letting people walk all over you if you don't have some clear standards and boundaries. So a lot of that was just like the grit we were raised with, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I think another piece was, I was married previously, and it was not a good marriage. It started out well, but I woke up to thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars in debt, like $50,000 in debt, basically within like a couple weeks time, because my ex-husband had a gambling addiction, and it just kind of like snowballed. And oh, it was heartbreaking. It was an affair on the relationship, an affair on the money. And then just like, we had no money, and we had a house, we had stuff due, like we had adult things to pay. And so I thought I did the right thing, dug us out. He never admitted he had a gambling problem. He went to Gam-Anon one time, Gamblers Anonymous. Mm-hmm. And I thought maybe, do the right thing that I was taught. It's like you stick in your marriage through thick and thin. And the next summer I woke up and it had happened again within a year later. And that was when I think I really, can I say this, grew some balls?
Yes, you can.
And I really said, you know what? I'm not living like this. I'm not going to be married like this. I'm not raising a family like this. If we had decided to have children, which we did not, thank God, that would have just been like a whole nother layer, right? I'm not doing this. This is not making me happy. And I think that was really a defining moment for me in the world of fear and courage, because I was scared. I mean, I was 30. I had to get rid of that debt, which wasn't even mine, twice. I had to move in with my sister and her husband, which is like a huge blow to your ego, right? I had to start over I had zero money. I was a teacher in North Carolina at the time, making maybe $30,000 after 10 years of teaching. It wasn't a lot of money. And I had to swallow a lot of pride. I had to push my ego aside, and I had to say, okay, and this still makes me upset when I think about it, but the courage came from being in action. Mm-hmm. And this is really what I coach around in my community and with my clients and in the academy and all of these places that I'm teaching is, if you're in fear and you stay in fear, nothing's going to change, except you kind of just keep going down this rabbit hole of fear. Like, it just keeps getting worse because you're thinking about it. So what did I do? I moved. I stayed in action. And even when it hurt my ego, even when it was hard, even when it was difficult, moved in with my sister, saved up enough money, got help. I had to ask for help. I did not want to get help. Asked for help from my family. And of course, they were all awesome. And started over again. Had to go get my own apartment. Had to start over with furniture. Like, you name it. Like, I was starting from zero again. And that was probably, between how I was raised and what I had to learn through that year and a half, of separation into divorce, was really where I just decided, to me, that was a rock bottom, really. And I was not going to live like this. And so I started really thinking about, what does my perfect life look like?
Awesome.
What can I do in the next 6 months to get there? And it was little things at the time, like pay off the car, get my own apartment. But I have kept those ideas and those ideals every single day, which is what people probably say makes me look fearless. In my community. And yes, there's still fears, but I'm very big on asking the questions and keeping in action.
Yeah, that is brilliant. Mm-hmm. So it's that constant movement, even small little incremental decisions, and taking that action and not letting yourself wallow. Maybe have a couple of Oreos and then you feel better and move on. But I think also the key here is that vision then that you were able to create to really reflect on all right, this crap isn't what I want. What is what I want? And
Yeah.
creating that true picture of what you're moving towards, and then using that to guide your action.
Yeah.
Right.
And you said something really important is sometimes we don't know what we want because it's hard to think of what you want if you don't have it sometimes, right?
Right.
But thinking about what you don't want has been my huge motivators and what's helped me build my life and my brand. I did not want debt. I have zero debt to this day. Well, we just bought a house. I don't necessarily consider that debt, but that is the only debt that we have. That I didn't want debt. That was a motivator. I didn't want another marriage that was like that. Now, it didn't start like that, so that's a little tricky, right? That's a little bit of a tricky one to project. But you better believe when I met Michael, my husband now, we had conversations about how I felt about money and how I was still scared of things that had to do with money and how I didn't want debt and how we weren't going to have credit cards, and being really upfront and honest about those feelings and those emotions. I didn't want, that's how I make the decisions. Even in my own community, like we had not so great week last week with some things going on in the brand and their growth challenges, right? It's like people that aren't being so nice in the Facebook group. One person, not people. Out of all of this time, I've had this lovely Facebook group, but it really threw me for a loop. And I had to step back and I had to say, okay, am I just pissed off or is this wrong? Like which one is it? Because people can disagree with me. It's fine. And I might get pissed off about it. And that's my own stuff to deal with. But you can't disagree and be assholes to other people. Like that's just not allowed in my group, right? So there was that, the growing pain. And I got scared for a moment. I'm like, wow, I wonder what the members are thinking about this. What should I be doing? Should I be acting faster? And finally, I just had to take all that out and I had to say, okay, what is good for the group? That's what I need to focus on here.
Right.
And it's that little bit of clarity, asking those questions and staying in action. It's, I think, what helps people move through fear.
And I think what I'm hearing also is an acknowledgement of and a dedication to being in alignment with your core values.
Yeah. Yeah, I think core values are huge. There's a whole page on my website called Values Matter. And my highest core value is honesty and integrity. And when those two things are jeopardized in my world, there's misery. And I've got to get from that misery to that truth, right? And how did I move from misery to truth over the last few days of like crazy stuff happening in a group? Was I had to step back and say, okay, what do I want here? What have we built here? What is being jeopardized here? And now what do I need to do with this information? Right. And yeah, knowing your values and knowing where you stand. And that's the standards and boundaries thing too that we talked about at the beginning is if you don't know what you stand for, how can you be a thought leader? How can you run a 6-figure brand or a 5-figure brand? Or it doesn't even matter. Like how can you run your life and be at your happiest place and run your business and be at your happiest place if you don't even know where you operate from?
Yeah, but I think it's easy for us to not know where we operate from when we've been conditioned by society, organizations that we've worked for. At some point it can be easy to say, especially when you go out on your own at first, what the heck is it that I believe? Because I've been helping other people achieve their goals. I've been focusing on the organization's mission and vision. I don't even know what mine is. So I think that time, if you don't know it already internally, spending time getting clear about that, working with a coach or, a therapist, for God's sake, anybody who is going to help you get that kind of clarity around who you really are and what you really want. That's great. So there are lots of people watching, I know, who are moonlighting, working a side hustle, as it's called, or a side business, and dreaming and making their big break. Other people who feel like they want more and really wondering if life as an entrepreneur is right for them. So let's start with where you once were, feeling that you were trapped. What advice do you have for those people? And what should they be thinking about now before they decide I'm mad as hell and I can't take it anymore?
Well, I will say sometimes when you're mad as hell and can't take it anymore, that's when the change happens. And it'll happen fast, so you better be ready for it.
Yeah.
So I have always said in every interview I've ever done, I hired 4 people from the very beginning: a coach, a virtual assistant, a website designer, and an accountant, because I'm not dealing with numbers. Like, I don't want to do that. I spend my time doing that. How did I do that? I used savings accounts. We all start at 0. I had 0 clients, 0 followers, whatever, 0 people. So, figure out what kind of support you need to grow your brand to the vision that you want it. And this is something I'm going to be talking about a lot more, I think, in my own group and at my event in October, is you can't keep operating with your current vision if you're going to grow a brand. And the resources you have right now are probably not sufficient resources if you're going to grow your brand. So you've got to always, it's like, we had 4 kids in the family, and it was school shopping, right? Like, whoa, everyone's growing, growth spurts. What did mom and dad do? They bought a half size bigger shoe for all of us so that we could extend the life of that shoe. They bought maybe a large shirt when we were in between maybe a medium and a large, and maybe could have done them. Why? So we could grow into it and we could extend the life of that shirt. And I think we need to get people talking and thinking about their businesses in that way.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I really like that whole concept. And I think it ties back to, is it Einstein who said the thinking that got us where we are isn't the thinking that's going to get us where we need to be? And that's probably the same kind of thing. You're not going to be the same person when you start, and then at different iterations, you are going to grow. And I love that phrase, growing pains, because we know what that was like as kids, and we're going to continue to feel that as our business grows, and hopefully we won't have that awful awkward stage like we did when we were kids. So how about for those people who know their business is really called to be bigger? Any advice for them? Because I know your brand really is growing rapidly.
Yeah. I think you need to stay grounded, like just personally grounded. I have a spiritual practice every morning. I'd say 6 out of 7 mornings I get to it. There might be a crazy morning that I don't, but I feel that. If I don't do that, I feel it by the end of the day. So you need to stay grounded. Just this year, I added something to my own little circle. I call it Inner Circle. And I asked 3 people, would you please be part of my inner circle? And these are people I respect and admire. And here's what I want you to look out for. Is my ego taking over? That was the first thing. And it's a shadow side that I'm really worried about. It probably will never happen because I'm really worried about it, but I want somebody to be looking for that, right? So do you ever see anything that I do where it feels like my ego is leading before serving others? That's one of the things I ask them to look out for. Also, can you kind of just watch what's happening in the brand? And if you have ideas I haven't thought of, can you tell them to me? I would love your advice. So that was one thing I added this year that has been really good, because they'll hit me up on Voxer or on Facebook Messenger and be like, hey, what did you really mean in that video you did? Because this is what I took away from it. And sometimes we all bring our own experiences. So sometimes I feel like they're just really off. Like whatever's going on in their world didn't quite land how it should have. Right. But sometimes it does make me look at things and say, maybe I'll do that a little different next time. So that's really important. And then I just think dreaming big, and we hear it all the time, and what does it mean? But like my vision for my brand in the next couple years is that I'm leading multiple international retreats a year. So I filled an international retreat this year, getting ready to announce one for 2018. I am certain that one will fill. But I want to be able to do multiple of those. So I'm always thinking, like, what needs to happen for me to lead multiple retreats internationally? So thinking about that bigger vision, and also what kind of support am I going to need to grow into those things, right? You can't really lead an international retreat without someone over there on the ground running and taking care of the stuff, because I'm certainly not in Italy taking care of it all, right? Right. So you have to think big, dream big, but you also have to think, what support will I need for that? Mm-hmm. And then all of that, people say, well, yeah, but how do I pay for it? Like they get stuck in that cycle. Well, you raise your rates and you get premium. That's what you do, is you get exclusive with who you work with. You charge you can never charge your value. I know this. My coaching is X amount of dollars. I am worth infinite amount of that to my people. That is a mindset, right? And that is a mindset I had to adopt. And if people aren't going to pay that for coaching, it's fine. But I know that if they turn that away, they've also turned away like 20, 30, 40 times that amount of money that I could help them bring in their business.
Right.
So spiritual practice, dreaming big, and working on your own mindset are huge, really huge.
Yeah, that's great and really well said. So tell people how they can get a hold of you if they would like to learn more. Is their first step to check you out on your website, on Facebook? What's your preference?
Yeah, I would say it's a dual thing. You can check me out on my website at mshannonhernandez.com and come join us in the Content Strategy Lab on Facebook. You can just search the groups, Content Strategy Lab. It's a beautiful, loving community, and we would love to have you with us.
Full of smart people.
Very smart people.
Smart people who give great feedback and great information. So, all right, awesome. So thanks very much for being here. And when the show notes come out, we'll include the link to Shannon's book and to Shannon's website and the Facebook group as well. So bye for now. All right, I hope you found that useful and interesting. Shannon's a great person, and you definitely want to check out her site, Shannon Hernandez, and you want to take the content personality inventory so you can find out what your content personality is all about. And so as you are moving forward to get your message out, you're using techniques and strategies that are actually a great fit for you. So your reflection exercise as you think about this episode, first of all, if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to post them and I will respond and get back to you. Feel free to tag me and I'll get back to you in about 24 hours at the most. And as you think about the issue that we talked about today, this issue of fear and how it can keep you from achieving your great dreams, is I want you to think about what was the last thing that you really wanted to try, but you didn't do it. And it might present itself as resistance or procrastination or a distraction and an inability to focus. And it really comes down to there's some fear that is holding you back from moving forward and taking action. And then your action step is to brainstorm a list of things that are concerning you and take one small step to move forward and to then start to build momentum, because Shannon made a great point that in action, that's where fear begins to melt away. And the one reason for that is because you discover that you survived, right? And often that what you might have been thinking about and worrying about, because of course we worry in advance, right? And I had mentioned the fear of telling people our plans and what will they think. Often it's not really as bad as you think it is. Even with our parents, God bless them, they only want the best for us. So their concerns are really that you won't be safe, that you'll need something. If they can't keep you safe, they can't help you. So you really want to think about what's the absolute worst thing that could happen. Okay, they get mad at you. Well, they'll get over it, right? We all do. We all move past that. And at this point, yes, they're important, but we're raised to then be independent citizens. So I know that relationship, believe me, I know that relationship can be a complicated one, but at some point you have to ask yourself, am I living my life for me, or am I living my life for others who are in it, whether it's my boss, my parent, my spouse, my siblings, or my neighbors for that matter. So I hope you found this episode helpful and I hope you enjoyed it. Please share it with those in your circle. Share it in your social media and wherever you would like to share this link. And as I said, this episode was brought to you by the workshop that I am putting on, and I can't even remember the name of it. It is the critical questions to ask yourself before you write a book. That is a free webinar that I am going to be hosting, and I am hosting it on March 30th at, yes, March 30th from 1 p.m. to 2:30 p.m. Eastern time. So if you want to get more information, I'm still working on the registration page, to be honest with you, but if you want to get more information and you want to sign up just even to learn more about it, head over to winnieanderson.com/bookquestions, all one word. So winnieanderson.com/bookquestions, and throughout the day I'll be adding information there so you can learn more about it. But at least add your name now, and I will share the information when it is ready. So I wish you all the best, and I know that you are capable of so much more than you think you are. So be brave, dare greatly, and I will see you soon in another episode. This has been Winnie Anderson for the Courageous Entrepreneur Show. Bye for now.